Hello, healthy people, and welcome back to the Organelle podcast. Today, we're exploring the relationship between psychology and nutrition. We'll navigate through the incredible importance of escaping negative nutrition psychology spirals and establishing good ones, with special attention to a few specific thought patterns you want to avoid and some unnutritious intake that's going to be harming you. As always, I'm Xavier Greenhalgh, and joining me is none other than the Organelle digital health platform's founding practitioner, Lionel Godwin. So without further ado, let's all take the next steps on our health journey. The psychology of food. We are in for it today, Lionel. Oh, welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Let's jump straight into it, okay? Everyone, they've read the podcast episode, you know what you're here for. Psychology and nutrition. Where do the two meet? Can you define the overlap of them?
Yeah, and there is a real overlap between psychology and nutrition because, um, you know, nutrition refers to ways in which psychological factors such as emotions, behaviors, and thought patterns can really influence our dietary choices, and even our eating behaviors. And you often hear of people who are emotional eaters or whatever, and this can have a real impact. Uh, Nutrition can really impact our psychological health as well, such as our moods and our cognition and our behavior as well. So understanding the intersections that can help inform interventions and improve both physical and mental health comes is where this overlap really occurs.
Yeah, you've alluded to something there that I think is really important to clarify before we go any further. And that's the two-way street nature of this relationship. It's not just that nutrition can influence psychology, but psychology can also influence nutrition. So, what I want you to kind of define for us here is why is it a two-way relationship, and is one way more important than the other?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm not sure that one is more important than the other, but let's just address them individually, and then we can perhaps discuss it further. So, nutrients in the diet can play, a role in the production of the neurotransmissions. And we've talked about brain function in one of our earlier podcasts. Again, it also affects our hormones, for instance, which these all regulate our mood and our cognition and our
That have an adverse effect on their psychology.
stress, boredom, emotions, you know, cognitive distortions. And that could be cognitive distortions around body image, unhealthy beliefs or attitudes around foods as well is a big one. We get overwhelmed with information and advertorials and ads and stuff around the type of foods that we could be or should be consuming. Then there's peer pressure that we get from people. There's cultural norms that we need to be very, very aware of. And then there's, just the media messaging that can really shape our dietary behaviors.
Yeah, we've talked about it before, right? It's this negative spiral. It's not just a one-way negative relationship because you have bad food, which makes you feel worse about yourself, which then makes you eat more bad food, which makes you feel even worse about yourself, and it just goes all the way down.
Mhm.
What can we do to flip that on our head and create a positive spiral? What positive nutrition and positive psychology can we implement to make it continually reinforce itself up instead of down?
Yeah, look, that's a really complex question, and it can be difficult, and it's very much a circumstantial thing for a lot of people. So, we need to be able to assist people in changing these patterns, obviously, and particularly the thought patterns. Um, you know, we need to be identifying what these unhealthy beliefs and attitudes are. Where are they coming from? What's at the root cause of these really unhealthy beliefs and attitudes? We need to be promoting much more awareness and education around particularly the impact of these mindsets and the like. We need to help people through positive self-talk and positive affirmations, and developing coping strategies that help us manage our emotions and our thought process is really, really, really important. Um, and this can, for a lot of people, I've had them go through some cognitive behavioral therapies, for instance, which is really help with people. Mindfulness-based interventions also really help, around just realigning your thought patterns around foods and emotions and the like. And any time that we can get some nutritional education from a dietitian or a nutritionist can really help. And even counselling for some people to really moderate our behaviours and our thoughts around nutrition are, for me, probably the most effective ways of going about it. But it very much depends on how bad people are with these mindsets or these approaches to management. That will determine, what is generally the best course of action for somebody.
Yeah, changing your thought patterns when it comes to this kind of thing is definitely really hard. It's really hard to reverse that spiral. I know for me, I've been going through a bit of a nutritional renaissance recently myself. And the thing that, because I tried a lot of times to eat less junk and, be healthier and more nutritious organic food, but I never really stuck with it because there wasn't really any high impact thing. I'm pretty young. I have a lot of, I can afford to make a lot of bad decisions before they start to catch up with me 5 or 10 years from now. But it wasn't until I actually got a blood test done and I saw some of my nutrients, some of my hormone levels that I went, fuck. And
Mm.
it just became way, way easier after that for me to say no to the easy McDonald's drive-through or the protein shake at the service station or whatever it happens to be. So I think for people, it's really important to give them that proof, to give them
Mm.
that wake-up call. I think the
Yep.
most and I think the most effective way people can do that is through a pathology test, through getting an actual look at what's happening inside their bodies.
Well, that might be the thing that that is the most tangible in changing mindset or encouraging uh, behavioral change by having these definitive markers there is all of a sudden becomes a great reference point and can narrow your thinking. And for a lot of people that's it's as simple as that. Just narrow your thinking around your food and your food choices and why you're eating. One of the things that I talk to people about a lot is understanding that if I'm going to eat something, what's the point of eating an empty calorie? So I've been able to change my mindset from I've always eaten well, but if ever I'm tempted to eat something that I know is not good for me, the first thing I do is take myself back to whether this is an empty calorie or a nutrient dense calorie, and I just don't see the sense in eating an empty calorie. It does nothing for me. It's eating for the sake of eating, but there's no benefits to me internally or externally, really, because it'll manifest itself in some a breakout or whatever. But it's this understanding of empty calories over nutrient dense calories. Unfortunately, through peer group pressure, through marketing, through a whole range of influences that we get, we have or are encouraged to eat a lot of really empty calories. And these empty calories are really, really harmful. They do us no good at all because they are empty calories. There's nothing in them that are going to help balance out mood or cognitive behavior or hormones or nutrient deficiencies. They're just empty calories. They're just food for the sake of eating something, but providing you no benefit other than to give you the satisfaction of having something in your stomach, which then hopefully just switches the mind or say, oh well, I've had something, but the body and the stomach, once it's processing this food, is not actually absorbing it and putting it to any beneficial use within the body. So it's just a little simple thing about that. Asking yourself that question: is this an empty calorie or a nutrient dense calorie? Is going to make hopefully a change in mindset for people. But it's difficult. I admit it's difficult. I've been working with people for 40 years around their nutrition, and I know the challenges people face. I'm one of the lucky ones. I've never faced it. I've just always had this great awareness. But having worked with people for 40 years, I understand the psychology around it and the difficulties in changing behaviours and blocking out the white noise. There's so much white noise out there around, you know, foods and the availability of foods and, these glossy ads where you're seeing all of these really buff people eating McDonald's and drinking Coca-Cola and stuff. That's a fantasy. The reality is, you keep doing that, you're never going to be like the models that are promoting them in these ads, for instance. You're soon going to
Mm.
become a couch potato who's got chronic illness and disease, full of inflammation, depressed, got low self-esteem, and it becomes really disabling for people.
Yeah, I'd be really interested to hear your viewpoint on a specific issue, just because you've worked with so many people over such a long time. You've guided a lot of people through successful transformations around this stuff. What have you found effective for helping people overcome stress eating? The type of person who starts to feel really pressured with deadlines or job stress or something to do with that, and to relieve that stress, they open up the jar of Nutella or have 15 slices of toast.
I,
What have you found to
I,
be effective?
Information for me, so evidence. So what I've tried to do with
Mm,
people like that is use many of the biomarkers that we get from our blood test or through my body composition analysis or my cell well-being analysis that I do to show people the impact of those choices, so that they can see that they're actually not, whilst they're getting a quick fix that has an immediate impact on making them feel better, it's actually making them worse. The next time they're in that situation, their stress levels are even higher than they were before. So I use evidence for me. That's been the biggest tool that I've used. And originally I didn't have evidence, and that it became a real problem for me because I felt like I wasn't giving my people the best advice. But as science has improved and the availability of testing has increased, and the turnaround of results that we get has become far quicker and much more efficient. I've been able to use evidence just to show people the impact of these poor stress-related or emotional decisions that they make around food. And that's been the single biggest factor for me, is just being able to provide that evidence to people.
absolutely. It seems clear and dry that our number one feedback point here is the most effective thing you can do to change your mindset around these, to increase your nutrition, to increase your psychology, is to get that evidence in front of you, to look at that undeniable data that's going to tell you the actual effect that these habits are having on your life.
Mm. Yeah, and a lot of people, it doesn't just come with the evidence. They know themselves after they've had made a poor food choice, how poorly they feel both physically but also emotionally as well. A lot of people tend to beat themselves up when they've made a bad food choice, and I don't ever want people to do that. I don't want people to have an unhealthy relationship with food ever.
Mm.
Unfortunately, we do, because again, we believe that we should all conform to the norms, and we look at all the media marketing and stuff that's out there, and we do tend to beat ourselves up more than what we should. But as long as we're aware of the fact that as best we can, we should be avoiding empty calories, and trying to have some nutrient dense calories. And particularly when we're stressed, one of the things that you'll notice immediately, if you eat something that is highly nutrient dense when you are stressed and anxious, you almost get, within 10 or 15 minutes, you get that feeling of being able to cope better. You don't have that poor, even poorer shift in mood. You do notice that your energy increases, and more importantly, you notice that your concentration increases as well, which makes you, just feel better about the task ahead.
Phenomenal. Okay, there's plenty of value for the listeners there. If you want to get some of that data in front of you, we recommend no one more than Organelle at organelle.com.au as a digital health pathology platform through which you can view all your results, get the testing done easily without having to go see a doctor, and even if you want, consult with an expert like Lionel. Phenomenal
Yeah.
stuff. Thank you for your time today.
Always a pleasure to be with you, Xavier, and I look forward to speaking with you next week.
Till next week.